Hi everyone, I'm design team member Kathleen, designing for 12 by 12 cardstock shop, and today we're going to be making a large heart-shaped petal flower that is perfect for Valentine's Day. If you'd like to find the template for this flower, you can find it on my Etsy shop, K Creations XO. All petal dimensions and material information is found below. On the screen here are some of the materials you're going to need in order to get started. So I have two different types of cardstock that I'm going to use to begin my flower. This one here, which is this pinkish color, this is Piglet by Basil, 12 by 12 cardstock. This one over here is a foil cardstock, which is considered a hot pink. For our base, I use a 4-inch piece of cardboard, which is kind of like coaster size. Pair of scissors, and then I always refer to using Gorilla Glue hot glue sticks. I feel that this sticks the best compared to other brands that I've used in the past. So the first thing that we're going to do is prep our petals to get them ready to attach to our cardboard. So I'm going to start with our largest petal, and I usually grab about 2 or 3 at a time just to cut the slit into the bottom of our flower here, or into our petal I should say. And when I cut the slit, I usually cut maybe about 2 to 3 inches. Really, that's up to you what size you would like for your slit. The longer the slit, kind of like the flatter your petal will be, the shorter the slit, the higher your petals will sit. So I'm gonna cut mine between 2 to 3 inches long. And I have about 6 petals each. Maybe between 6 to 8 petals. I believe I'm only going to use 6 petals, so I'm probably going to have some extra. Alright, so I'm actually going to put my extras aside. So I said, probably only need 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One more. 6. Now these petal shapes, I created them myself. You can find the template on my Etsy shop, which is K Creations XO on Etsy. You can use them for your Cricut or any other machine that's very similar to a Cricut. It's on an SVG and a PNG. You can also use that PNG to create your own cutout tracers. So if you don't have a Cricut machine or another similar machine at home, you can always print out the shape of the petals and use them as tracers. So you can make them bigger, smaller, however you prefer to create your petals. All right, so again, I'm still cutting about the same length for our smaller petals here, grabbing about 2 to 3 at a time. And again, I should have 6 petals. And I'm going to put the extra aside. Okay, and then lastly, again, make sure you have, I would say about 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These ones, the slits are going to be a little bit shorter. I'm going to say maybe about 1.5 inches. Just because this is going to be towards the center of our flower and we want these flowers to stand taller. Now, going back to my large petals, I'm going to do 1 at a time, and we're going to fold them in half. And since we cut the slit, it kind of actually helps fold them in half. And I prefer to do 1 at a time because the folding is more precise. Now, once you have them all folded, I recommend having a wooden dowel. I forgot to mention this in the beginning. This is probably a 3/4 wooden dowel. So if you have like a Crayola marker, that's pretty much about the same width. I recommend using, so you don't have to go out and buy one of these. You could probably find a marker that's a similar size. I do recommend making sure that it is round and doesn't have any like flat edges. Here I'm going to take 2 petals at a time. 1, 2. And with it folded, with the folded edge facing your belly, I'll pick up the top 2 petals and roll them to the fold, like so. Then flip it over, take the other 2 petals, and then roll them to the fold. So your petals should look something like this when you're finished. I'm going to repeat. I'm going to do the same thing for this petal here. And now for our smallest petal, we're going to do something similar. But to help see the 2 hearts that are on this petal, we're going to fold them in half. Then I'm going to take the top flap, fold it back. So I'm splitting that petal, splitting that heart in half. Oops. Like so. Do the same thing on the other side. So when they're close, they should line up as best as they can. Again, if it's not perfect, it's okay, because remember, flowers are very organic. So you should have something like this. And I'm going to repeat. Okay, I'll fold in half, fold this top petal back, and then fold this top petal back. So you want to make sure all the folds are aligned with one another. That's kind of the best way to ensure that you're folding it properly. There you go. Okay, now it comes to the gluing to make our petals more 3D. I'm gonna grab my hot glue gun. I'm gonna take my largest petal and I'm gonna do this one at a time. Make sure you have one. You're gonna put a little bit of glue onto the tab, and then you're going to cross your petals. The more you cross them, the higher your petal. The slightest bend is going to make more of a slight height. So mine, again, this is kind of like guesstimation. They kind of hit each other at this angle. I'm going to try to repeat that angle for all my other petals so they all sit at the same height. All right. For the next petal, I want them to overlap a little bit more because I want these petals to be higher than my bigger petals. A little bit of glue. I'm gonna have them overlap so the point of the other tab is kind of splitting this rectangle shape in half. So it should sit higher. So I'll repeat, crisscross, point, splitting that in half. All right, then we have our last section here. Again, it's a smaller slit, so kind of figure out how high you want these to go about, and I kind of want mine to be about this high, so that means I'm having the point match up with the other tab point here. So I'm gonna put a little bit of glue, have them cross until they meet point to point. So now you have like 2 standing hearts. Alright, so now that our petals are done, we can start putting our flower together. Again, you want to make sure that you have a 4-inch piece of cardboard. It's like that cardboard for coasters. If you don't have the cardboard, just create like a 4-inch circle out of cardstock. That works well as, too. Alright, starting with my larger petals, I'm going to work my way around the outside. Some ways that you can do this is that you can go across from one another so you know that they're evenly spaced, or what some people do is that they like to go all the way around. For mine, I'm actually just going to place one and then work my way across to complete the first layer. So I'm going to put glue onto the back of the tab. I'm going to place it towards the edge of my cardboard here like so. Then I'm going to rotate. And make sure that my petal is sitting straight across from the one that I originally placed. All right, layer 1 done. Next, layer 2. When I put these on, I'm usually trying to line up the middle of my petal to where the last 2 petals intersect. So this is where they touch. This is where the middle petal is going to line up. You can have your petals move in a little bit further, or you can try to glue them right over top of the last tabs. If you glue them right over top of the last tabs, it's going to give you a bigger space on the inside, or if you want to have a smaller space on the inside, just bring them a little bit closer. Now, since the inside of our petals are getting, closer together, they're making them stand a little bit taller, I might not use all 6. It just depends on what is available to me. So let's see if I put this one here. Like I might be using 4, so let's just see. I'm starting with this area here because this petal is getting covered by the neighbors. So I'm going to glue this one here. I'm going to work directly across. And like I said, I might not need 6. I might only need 4, because then I can put number 3 here. I'm trying to give you a visual first before I glue it down. And then I'll have number 4 over here. So I think I'm only going to do 4. 6 would be a little too much. And again, same thing, you can manipulate the folds of this petal here. Okay, and now we're going to start working on the center of our Valentine's Day flower. Okay, so to create the center of our flower, we're going to need our hot pink foil cardstock. You'll need a styrofoam ball. I'm using one that is about 1.5 inches in diameter. And then I have some rose gold pink that I'm going to use to help bring some bling to the center of our Valentine's Day flower. So the first thing that I'm going to do is use the cardstock. This foil cardstock is thicker than what we use for the flowers, for the petals. But you want to try to fold this in half as best as you can, where you have the right sides facing each other, so you're looking at the back side of the cardstock. It's okay if the fold is not perfect. Okay, it is a challenge to fold in half. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a fringe. So now with your pair of scissors, now that you have it folded in half, you're gonna create very thin, tiny snips, making sure that you don't go all the way down to the bottom because you don't wanna cut it off. But you wanna create a texture for the center of your flower. So take your time. This part is a little tedious. If you accidentally snip a piece off, that's okay. Well, we can still use it. Ooh. All right, so once you have cut all your fringe across, you want to open up your foil cardstock. So now that you can see that beautiful pink on the inside. All right, we're gonna lay it flat. I'm gonna take my hot glue gun and right along the edge here, I'm gonna start putting some glue. And I do one little section at a time just because the glue does dry rather quickly. So I'm gonna push that down so it sticks. Grab my hot glue again, drag it across the bottom. Push it down. And I'm gonna do that all the way across. Now we're going to put this aside so we can create the center. So we'll come back to that piece. All right, so to create the center, we're going to use a styrofoam ball. I'm using an 1.5 inch diameter styrofoam ball. So I'm going to pull this out of the package here. And I'm still going to use my hot glue gun to help cover it with glitter. I've put my glitter into more of a wider container so I can just push it into the glitter here. So what I'm going to do here is just kind of put some of this hot glue all over the top, and if I have enough, put it around the sides. Before it dries, I'm just going to stick it into the glitter. Press, press, press. I need another glue stick, so one moment. Okay, then you can pick it out of the glitter and add some more of where we may not have put enough. And then press, press, press. Pull it out. The one thing that's great about using a hot glue gun and glitter is that it is somewhat malleable, so you can kind of tap it to flatten it. Still. Okay, so yes, this part is a little bit messy, but it makes it look beautiful in the end. All right, so now I can move that aside. And like I said, I only went down like halfway, and that's because we're gonna bring back this cardstock that we just cut up to help kind of wrap around and cover up any areas that we may have missed. So to start, I'm just gonna put a little dot of glue here on the center or at the bottom of my cardstock. And I'm gonna place this right up against the styrofoam. And I'm gonna hold it for a little bit just so it attaches, it adheres. Then what we're going to do is we're going to start to wrap this around the center. Just put glue down towards the bottom and wrap it around. You are going to have an area where it does overlap. So I'm just going to make sure it aligns to the bottom of the last piece of cardstock. And I'm going to close it up. I'm going to hold it shut. Now the best part about this is that we can manipulate these little pieces of fringe. So I can have them fold backwards so they can open up a little bit more so you can see the center of our glitter sphere. Of course, I can manipulate this more. You can also add another layer. So if you feel like this is not enough texture for the center of your flower, you can just do the whole process all over again and add another layer of fringe. But I'm going to test it out, see what it looks like in our flower here. So I'm just going to place it in first before I glue it. And I feel like this center works perfectly. I don't think I need to add anything else to it. If I add too much, it just becomes too stuffed, and it starts to flatten the texture that you have in the middle. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the glue on the bottom of the sphere here. Okay, and then I'm going to place it right into the middle. And then I'm going to let it dry. Love glitter, but glitter is also messy. So of course you can always find some centers like of hearts or things like that from like the dollar store. So you can be really creative with the center of your flower. What you can do at the very end, once the hot glue has dried, you can take like a hair dryer to try to blow off any of the extra glitter. Or if you have strings of hot glue, you can blow that off. It'll kind of like melt it away. Like I have a string right here. And there you have it.